Hi everyone and welcome to Topics 1 and 2. With Topics 1 and 2, we're going to be reading chapters 1 through 3. You'll notice these are all right here. This is going to be Introduction to Economics, and we're going to be focused on supply and demand and elasticity in these couple chapters. But this first 3 chapters are going to be focused on the 10 principles of economics. What is economics? How markets operate, and international trade. If we click on the chapter 1 PowerPoint right here, it'll take us to the PowerPoint slides. There's a couple things I want to cover in the PowerPoint slides. Economics. Economics is the study of unlimited wants with limited resources. You know that we all have decisions that we have to make. The challenge in economics is how do we manage our resources given our limited resource? How do we manage our choices we have to make with our limited resources? In this chapter, they're going to focus on a couple different things. How people make decisions. And when we look at how people make decisions, you notice we're going to be faced with our trade-offs. And our trade-offs are very important to evaluate because we're always deciding between two different events. Now in chapter 2, we're going to be looking at some other concepts. Chapter 2 is going to be focused on the role of observations and models. And I want to do a certain, here it is, certain model, which is called the circular flow diagram. In the circular flow diagram, we're trying to connect two different people. We're trying to connect firms and we're trying to connect households. They interact in two different markets. They interact in the market for goods and services and the markets for factors of production. Now, the factors of production are where land, labor, and capital are sold. Now, the people that own the land, labor, and capital are the households. So we supply our services to businesses. Firms supply us with wages. Now, in this right here, this market for goods and services, think of this as the store. So households buy stuff in the store. Firms supply goods in the store. So these are how the markets connect right here. And this is called the circular flow diagram. And you notice when people start to lose their jobs, so let's say people lose their jobs here, they start to lose income, they're not able to buy many goods and services from the store. So that's a connection we would have to look at. Now in chapter 3, we're going to be looking at the independence and gains from trade. The theory behind trade is trade can make everyone better off. So when we talk about trade, we're focused on how can we be better off. And when we can evaluate how we're better off, that's very important. We're going to start with this production possibility frontier. And I'm going to go through a simple example for you. If you look at farmer A and farmer B. Now, let's assume we have a country, and if we have these two different farmers, or if we have these two different countries, they're trying to figure out what should they produce. Now, one will produce meat, one will produce potatoes. The challenge we're facing with trade trade should allow us to produce or consume more of both of them. And the reason why we should be able to consume or produce more of them is the specialization concept. Now, there's two things we focus on. The first thing we focus on is what's called comparative advantage. Trade is based off of a comparative advantage. And the reason it's based off comparative advantage is because we're looking at who can produce something at a lower opportunity cost. When we look at absolute advantage, we're looking at who can produce more given their fixed resources. So if you see questions based on comparative advantage, it's based on who has a lower opportunity cost. Now, let's go over the quiz and some of the questions that you might see over chapters 1 through 3. Now the quiz will consist of 15 questions, and I'm going to go over each of the questions and what you should look at. There's no such thing as a free lunch. In economics, every decision that we have to make involves giving up something. Question 2. College athletes who drop out of college to play professional sports. They have to evaluate their opportunity cost. When you look at your opportunity cost, you're looking at your highest alternative. So that's what they should be focused on. Now, question 3 is looking at rational decisions. In economics, we assume in chapter 1, you remember, that we make decisions based off the margin. And when you look at rational decisions, the margin is each additional unit. So let me give you a couple examples. It could be an additional dollar I spend, an additional hour of study, an additional chip. All of those additional units are where we make decisions. Question 4 is looking at to promote good economic outcomes. Policy makers should strive to enact policies that somehow make society better, make us more productive, make markets operate efficiently. So those are some of the things that we would be focused on. Now question 5, that's looking at the income of a typical worker in a country is most likely linked to something that helps us that relates to technology. If you notice with technology allowed us to be able to produce more because we were very productive. Now question 6 is looking at what looks at the flow of goods and services. So flow of goods and services is where firms are supplying stuff in the market for goods and services, where households buy things. Now question 7, this is looking at she completes her first week of employment working as a hairdresser at a salon. On Friday of the week, she receives her first paycheck. To which arrows does this transaction occur? So where we're looking at where households sell themselves for their goods and services. They sell their services where businesses pay them. Question 8 is looking at a technological advancement. And you notice the technological advancement happened in the battery industry because we're able to produce more. With the production possibility frontier, it restricts how much we can produce given our fixed resources. But when we have technological advancement, we're able to produce more of something. Question 9, now you notice that there's more being produced of each good, capital and consumer goods. So there must have been economic growth or technological advancement occur. Question 10 is looking at a microeconomist and a macroeconomist. Now, microeconomists are concerned about individual decision making, where individual and businesses make decisions, whereas macroeconomists are concerned about economy-wide policies and how these economy-wide policies influences what the government. Now, question 11 is going to be dealing with trying to calculate comparative advantage. Now, to calculate comparative advantage, you have to calculate what you have to give up to get. So to calculate with novels, you will have to do, novels will go on the bottom, so it'll be the ratio of how many poems to novels, so 12 over 2. And you'll do the same thing for this country, this person as well, 12 over 4. So they want to know the comparative advantage. Who has a comparative advantage? When you calculate the novels and in poems, you want to figure out who has the lower opportunity cost. That's who's going to have the comparative advantage. Question 12. If Kelly and David are both capable of repairing cars and cooking meals, which of the following scenarios is not possible? Make sure to focus on who is the comparative advantage. And when you focus on who is the comparative advantage, that's the person that should be the one that produces it. Question 13 looks at Canada and U.S. both produce wheat and computer software. Canada is said to have the comparative advantage of producing wheat. So now, if Canada has the comparative advantage, they should be the ones that produce wheat. And U.S. should be the one that would import the wheat. Question 14, looking at the principle of comparative advantage, and that's from the book. Question 15, suppose a gardener produces both green beans and corn in her garden. She must give up 14 bushels of corn to get 5 bushels of green beans. So now, for her to, so you want to do this ratio, 14 bushels of corn over 5 bushels of green bean equals x, or equals x over 1 green bean. So you want to solve for x. And if you multiply straight across, if you do the cross multiplication, you'll get that calculation of this right here. So these are the questions that you should see on the quiz. So make sure to review these questions and let me know if you have any questions.